The Black Falcon and the White Panther, Episode 2, The Star-Spangled Banner. As you can see, as I mentioned in my last review, Captain America here. This is what we call a museum pose. I just didn't want to pose him right now. I just haven't gotten into doing all that just yet with the figure. So I was just like, F it, I'm going to just have him here. And you can, like, other little shields. This is the concept art Captain America. If you check this out for the first time, there's this little black shield, which I thought was cool. And he comes with his classic shield as well, which is basically the gray version of the shield I had up in my last review. So there he is. Maybe he'll be posed next week. Maybe he won't. I'm not 100% sure. But I was like, I wanted to have him in the video. I just didn't want to pose him. So, boom, museum pose, just looking weird and normal. But this episode was good. I liked it. Episode 2 was fun. We got a lot of comedy in it. We actually have the Falcon and the Winter Soldier together. Like, really early on, too. It was just like, Sam's going on a mission. Here's Bucky. First thing he says, like, we kind of got the glimpse of, Sam in the last episode where, the episode ends. It's like the end of the episode. Boom, the new Captain America. And he literally looks at the TV and he's just like, man, he puts his head in his hands and everything. Is like, what the F? Like, this sucks. And then they show Bucky. And Bucky's like, this bitch said he was like a brother to him. I'm going to shoot him in the, like, just the whole episode. Like, him doing the staring thing. Like, them and John Walker. I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know what's going to happen. Like, we know that Sam gets the shield at some point. It's literally in the trailer. I don't know where that comes up. I don't know if that's some sort of fight. Like, I'm so curious because I'm like, I know he gets the shield. So I'm just like, how does that work? They even reference it a little bit like, why don't we just go take it? It's like, we're not going to just go beat this dude up and take the shield back. Like, last time I did something illegal with Cap. We were on the run for 2 freaking years. We were just like hiding in plain sight sort of deal. Like, I'm not really gonna go back to that lifestyle. Like, I'm not gonna beat this dude up and just take the shield back and be like, I'm Captain America now. Like, we can't really do that. So I'm like, okay. They're going through, they're having their arguments, they're having their jokes, they're, about to go on a mission, and it's against, apparently, one of the big 3, aliens, androids, or wizards, which was super fun. That was a really good conversation. Apparently, Bucky is a bit of a nerd. He was like, I read The Hobbit. I don't know how, I would assume it still, even back then, it was nerdy. He was like, I read The Hobbit in 1936, I think he said, when it first released. And so, also, a fantastic joke, a really silly moment where, they're talking about, the wizards and stuff. It's like, wizards don't exist. It's like Doctor Strange is like, he's a sorcerer. And Sam's like, see, sorcerers are just wizards without hats. And like, even Bucky had a look where he like kind of looked off to the side to like think about it. And he was like, man, like Sam was like, man, that was actually good. I just made that up. And I was like, dang, that does make a lot of sense. Like, what is love persevering if not grief? And sorcerers are just wizards without hats. Like, it's, man, the writing is so good, like the same level. It's the same thing. It's the same concepts. But it was a really good moment. I was like, that was really funny. And of course, they have their banter, and so they're just pissed at each other. Like, they're both mad at the new guy. They're kind of mad at each other. Bucky's pissed at Sam. Sam's pissed at Bucky for being pissed at him. And it's like, look, I don't want this new guy to have it either. I didn't know they were gonna do that. Like, I gave the shield to the Smithsonian, which is like the place where things stay. That's kind of the Smithsonian. It's like, once it's there, is pretty much there. Like, that's kind of what you're thinking. You don't think they're going to do a ceremony for the dead Captain America. Everyone's assuming he's dead. You don't tend to do a ceremony for a superhero and then just be like, but we're going to take the shield right out. Like, was it even a week? Was it even 2 days? In the last episode, I genuinely feel like maybe 2 days passed, maybe like three days passed. And then they're like, new Captain America, everybody. And it's just like, well, dang, why? What the F? Like, the actual shield. Once again, I did mention in the last episode, though, I was like, it is a vibranium shield and all this other stuff. They can't say adamantium, but I believe it's technically, in the comics at least. In this, it's just vibranium. But I was like, that's kind of effed up. That's a little disrespectful, not just to Sam, but like literally to the Captain America. And like a week later, after this big flashy ceremony, you're like, new guy, if it was, I'm giving him a week at most, but I really don't think even a week passed, in that last episode. But they're having their back and forth in this one, like, you shouldn't have given it up. It's just back and forth, like, look, I didn't know they were going to do that. Like, of course I didn't know they were going to do that. I wouldn't have given them the shield if I knew they were just going to give it to somebody else. Like, that's pointless. So, have their banter. They go on their mission to stop the Flag Smashers, and, Falcon does this thing. He hops out because, of course, he can fly. He has wings. And then Bucky's like, all right, where's that from parachute? It's like, we don't have any. That seems a little odd. I mean, I know it was just, Sam going on the mission. But I would assume that there would just be parachutes on there. Like, that's, in general, why wouldn't there be parachutes? Like, there's not a single parachute in case they're just randomly attacked. You know, there's a pilot. Like, what about that guy? Like, is he just screw him? You're dead? Like, no parachutes. That's really weird. But anyway, they went through. It's like, oh, we don't have any parachutes. F it, I don't need one anyway. So Bucky rips the sleeve off. So now we have. Oh, speaking of Hot Toys, if you haven't seen it, they released the Bucky figure. So it's him. This is his outfit. It's him with the blue jacket and the black arm. It's okay. I mentioned before, I do not like the black arm. The silver is just so much cooler. But yeah, it is what it is. Like I mentioned, it's probably a lot to do with the whole giant reflective arm thing. So they were like, let's just make it black and gold because that's better. But yeah, you know, he just rips the whole sleeve off with his regular hand. So they're like, boom, here's super strength. Because I don't know about you guys, but I can't rip through leather. That junk is tough. So he rips the whole arm off, and now it's just like, boom, metal arm. I also don't know why he had to do that. I think it was just for the cool look of it. But I'm like, he didn't have to rip the sleeve off to use his metal arm. It was really weird that he actually did that. And it was just like, that made no actual sense. Like, you could have just kept the jacket on the whole time and just still done it. I mean, if it was about restriction, I don't think that applies to the metallic arm that you have. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of funny. I was like, I don't think it matters, but I guess it did. So he ripped the whole sleeve off. He just jumps out the plane. I was like, I didn't think he was like that strong. Like, I knew he was strong. I knew obviously he's on the level of Steve when it comes to like the super soldier serum. But I didn't know he could just like hit the ground. I mean, I know technically he went through some trees, but I'm like, it's not like that slowed his descent that much. Like, he didn't really do that much. And he didn't even grab anything, really. I don't think he, like, I thought it was going to be like, okay, he's going to hit some trees, and then he's going to see one tree and just dig his hand in and just, like, slowly descend. I was like, no, he just put his hand in front of his face pretty much and just blew through the trees, and then he fell on his back, and he was alive. And I was like, I don't think I knew he could survive that much, because he hit the ground. Like, he didn't really slow down. Like, him hitting those trees, like, it's not like he flipped or anything. It's not like he was hitting trees and flipping back and forth and slowing down. He was just blowing through them. Like, he basically didn't slow down at all. He just didn't get splinters in his eyes. That's about the only thing his arm actually did. It was just like, okay, let me just do this so I don't get stuff in my face. And then he hit the ground, and I was like, huh. I didn't know he was, like, that strong. So I was like, okay. And that was just his normal body. It was just like, okay, he's cool. And then, of course, I was like, I got all that on camera, right? So, of course, they're going through. They have their conversation back and forth once again as they're going through. It's like, look, let's do this thing. Let's just go beat them up. It's like, we have to do a mission. Stealth. We need to do, recon. Let's see what we're dealing with. Let's figure this crap out. And so Bucky's like, whatever. So he goes, and then, of course, that's where Sam makes a joke, like, oh, look at you all stealthy, spend a little time in Wakanda, you come out White Panther. And then he says, like, it's White Wolf, actually. And then Sam was like, what? Like, they gave you a real name. So I like that moment. And then Bucky gets up to it and is like, okay, like, come on, like, it's clear over here. And then Sam just shows up, like, super quick, and he's like, well, hello. And he's like, hey, what did I miss? Nothing. And, like, just their banter was so good this episode. And, of course, Bucky is super aggro, as he is, and is like, let's just beat him up. There's two people. It's like, hold on. Let's check this out. And he's, of course, using Red Wing. He's like, so how many people are you saying? It's like, 2, 3, 4, 5. How about that? It's like, this is why we have to do recon. And then, of course, there was someone on the truck. They assumed it was a hostage. So they're like, all right, let's do this. Bucky takes off running. We get to see him run at super speed, which that specific thing wasn't new because we got to see that in Winter Soldier. So that was cool. Or not Winter Soldier. Civil War, he does that. Like the scene where it's Winter Soldier, Cap, as well as Black Panther, and they're all like, running faster than the cars, which is a great sequence. Recently watched that because I'm showing my friend, she's catching up on all the Marvel movies, so we just went through that one, and Civil War was the last movie we saw, so I love that sequence. Always thought it was really good. So he runs through, and this is where we get to one of the moments where I was like, this makes no sense. Like, I mean, obviously I talked about how it was weird there's no parachutes, on, like what I would think would be like a military plane. He runs into the second truck and nothing happens. Like, they go through that whole scene. He ran past the first truck. I don't know why they did this, by the way. I'm like, it makes no sense. Like, I guess the only thing was like, well, she's going to kick him into the second truck or, back into the second truck and he'll hit the window. But I'm like, well, that's stupid because he ran past the first truck and jumped onto the second truck, opened it up and everything. Nothing happened. It was like a full minute sequence where he's like going through and is like, I don't see anything, just supplies and this and that. And then, the woman comes out and he's like, I found the hostage and stuff. All this is going on. And I'm like, there's a truck behind you that's with this first truck, and this dude isn't like honking the horn like, hey, somebody just jumped on the truck. They don't show him like, hey, there's someone on the truck, like get ready. Like that's literally what they should have done, but I guess they didn't think of that at the time. But I'm like, they literally could have done like a pickup shot or something and just been like, hey, he just hits the comm, he doesn't make any noise. It's just like someone just hopped on the back of the truck. You're gonna have to like kick them out, or like kind of play it up a little bit or something. But someone's coming into the truck. Nothing. He just opened the truck up, and then it was just like the person behind just sleep at the wheel or something. So that was weird. That was another weird moment. But then we got a cool action sequence. Bucky gets kicked out. Then they're like, okay, let's fight these people. And then it's like, oh, okay, we're fighting a buttload of super soldiers. Everybody's super soldiers. And that's when things just changed. When I was watching this episode, I was like, this show is different. This whole universe just changed for me because being someone who likes Marvel, in the comic books, how the super soldier serum works is there's Captain America, and then there's nothing. Like it's Captain America. The Winter Soldier does his thing. I don't know if he's even a super soldier in the comics, if I'm being totally honest. So I could be wrong about that. It might be the two of them. But typically, it's Captain America, and then there's the Hulk, because that was supposed to be a super soldier thing. There is a bunch of other people. There are people where, I think I mentioned before, like there's a dude who was in the Jessica Jones show where he takes pills and gets super strength. That's another thing that they have in the comics where it's like they were able to do it temporarily, but not permanently. In the Ultimate Universe, Nick Fury is actually the very first super soldier, and then it was Captain America. So it was like, okay, there's precedence for there being like, there's a couple, there's this dude over here, there's somebody there. But it's very rare that the super soldier serum is the super soldier serum. And somehow everybody's a super soldier now. And this whole episode, just like, this was the beginning of it changing stuff. And it was like, oh, okay, the last episode is like, there's a dude that has a super soldier serum. It's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then this was like, every single one of them is a super soldier. It wasn't just like, oh, they had enough and they figured it out with this one dude, or, excuse me, it's possibly temporary. Based on how they do it, it's permanent for every single one of those people. So somehow they figured it out. Like they did it before, they kind of introduced it a little bit even in Winter Soldier, or in Civil War actually, where it's like, oh, they made other super soldiers. So it was always kind of out there, but clearly somebody else figured it out. And it's like, oh, it's back again where they actually did the legit super soldier serum, because it seems like it can easily just be widespread at this point, because that is not something you see in the comics where like everyone's a super soldier. This was like, no, there are super soldiers now. Then we get some stuff later in the episode where there's always been super soldiers. So that was insane. But they go through this whole fight. Of course, they get beat up. As they're getting beat up, our new Captain America comes out. I'm just going to call him U.S. Agent because I assume that eventually that's where they're going to go with it, where he becomes that guy. So he comes out, his buddy Battlestar, which I can't believe they didn't make a Battlestar Galactica joke. But Battlestar comes out, so they're fighting and stuff. And obviously everybody gets beat up. Like, Falcon has to save Bucky, so he comes in, he has to scoop him up from underneath the truck. That was a cool moment too, where he like glides in. I love the combat. The way that they were doing it was actually really cool. They destroyed Red Wing, so it was like, oh, that sucks. We don't get to see that too much. But I like the way that they did the action, like Bucky having to deal with all these people, and then Sam having to take off, where it's like, he, at one point, he opens up his wings to fly. And I like that it was realistic, because I thought they would just do it like, oh, well, he's got jets, so he won't really be affected by like wind and stuff. But he like opens the wings and he like flies backwards. And I was like, oh, that's cool, because sometimes when it comes to superhero stuff, they'll just be like, nah, forget physics. He'll open up the wings and instantly like jet boost forward like nothing happened. But he like actually flew backwards and had to like do a flip, and then he shot forward. And I was like, that's realistic in terms of physics at least. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, because sometimes they'll just ignore that stuff because it's superheroes. I was like, oh, who cares about random things? But they actually made it where like he is actually affected by the fact that if he opens up his wings on this truck that's flying down the road, he will get hit by a bunch of wind and the wings will take him backwards. So I was like, oh, that's cool. That's like a good way to defend. And I think this is something that they're going to go through with the series, where he has to learn how to fight super soldiers, because in this, he was getting his butt whooped. But you go back to the first episode, he was quite literally destroying those people. Like, it was nothing for him to just be flipping and spinning and flying around, and it was easy. But when you're dealing with super soldiers, where it's like that one punch to the face could literally knock you unconscious, it's a little bit different. So he was fighting like he was in the first episode, but he was getting destroyed, because it was like, oh, I don't really need to fly around to fight people. I can take people down myself. But when it comes to super soldiers, he has to utilize everything. So I think they're going to kind of build that up, where it's like, oh, Normally he flies around and that's like, okay, he flies around. He typically shoots some people and stuff and he'll do like a couple of flips and spins, but he has to like mostly fly now. So I'm curious how they're going to play around with that. But they come into the fight, everyone gets beaten up, they get taken out, our main characters, and then we have, U.S. Agent and Battlestar. And so, of course, Battlestar, he gets kicked off. U.S. Agent, he tosses the shield. He catches his buddy. I was like, oh, that was a cool moment. It's like, oh, yeah, I got him. I did the shield thing. That's nice. And then I think she punched him, and she just punched him right off the back of the ship. Not the ship, but the back of the truck. And so he was, of course, down. And so everybody got their butts rocked. And then it's like, oh, let's have this conversation. They're walking on the road, and it's like, hey, the airport's like 20 miles. Let's just figure some stuff out. So that doesn't end up working out too well. They talk, and it's just like, I'm the new Captain America. I'd really like, Captain, basically his wingman. And so Sam was like, oh, it's always that last part. Like, I gotta be like the sidekick, dude. So he's pissed. And Bucky had already left. He was just like, I just don't like either of you guys. So I'm just, F that. He was already gone. So it's like, they're butting heads, of course. And it's just like, all right. They have to have a conversation with the guy. So then we get introduced to Isaiah, I believe his name, played by this. So for anyone who doesn't know this, the guy that is playing this old super soldier in this is actually the original voice for the Martian Manhunter in the Justice League cartoons, and he also plays the Martian Manhunter's dad in Supergirl right now. So when I first saw him, I was like, oh man, they got John Jones in here. So that was super cool, just because I like the actor. But they have this conversation and they talk about how he met the Winter Soldier and how he beat him, and I'm like, well, that's crazy. Like, this dude beat the Winter Soldier and he even took his arm off, so it was like hand to hand. Like, that's crazy. And then I'm like, hold on a second. This dude is a super soldier. And then, of course, they show it where he's like, I don't want to talk about it, and he throws the thing and it hits the wall super hard. And I was like, yeah, this dude's a super soldier. So it's like, there have been super soldiers before, and, they get into the race stuff where it's like, he was a black super soldier, but he wasn't considered a hero. I would assume this was after Captain America as well. And so it's like, I wasn't considered to, well, it would have to be after Captain because he fought the Winter Soldier. That's obvious. So, it's like I wasn't paraded around as a hero. I wasn't shown off as like the new black Captain America or, anything. I wasn't shown off as a hero in any regard. I was locked up in prison for 30 years and they did a bunch of experiments on me, which I would assume is kind of what led to the other super soldiers. He was probably the second person. And then, or technically like the third. I don't know if, once again, Winter Soldier stuff, this could have been before Bucky became the Winter Soldier or it could have been after. So one of them is the second, and I would assume one of them is the third out of, those two characters. But it was like, I've been in prison. I was in prison for 30 years. Like, I was not paraded around as a hero. I was imprisoned as an experiment. And it was just like, man, that's crazy. And it's like, your people did experiments on me, which Bucky thought he meant white people, but he actually, or no, when he references that later, Sam was like, don't take that personally. He thought he was meant like white people, but he meant Nazis specifically. So him being in prison, I'm very curious how they probably won't get too much into it right now. Maybe somewhere down the line they could give a few more specifics, because him being in prison, it could be after World War II type stuff. Like, it's hard to tell. Like, they mentioned Nazis, so it's like, that spans a decent chunk of time when it comes to like Nazis doing experiments. It was, from World War I to World War II and beyond a little bit. So I don't know what the actual timeline is, but he references that he was just experimented on. So I would assume that he is the reason that other people were able to become super soldiers later down the line. And I thought that was interesting. It was like, holy crap, they introduced that. Nobody knew about it. Bucky says like, I didn't reference it because he'd already been through enough. Like, it, Sam didn't know. Even Captain America himself, he had no idea. Like, no one knew except for Bucky. And it was just like, I didn't say anything because he's already gone through enough. So that was an interesting moment. Also, that guy's son in the comics is one of the Young Avengers. So another tease right there, potentially. And then, of course, they have another moment where they're having their argument. Cops pull up, and it's like, the classic moment. And it's like, you're gonna see your ID. It's like, I don't have my ID on me, and they're just going through and this stuff. And it's like, we're just having a conversation. Like, is he bothering me? It's like, he's not bothering me. And, they even go through like, just give him your ID. It's like, I'm not giving him anything. So they go through that whole moment, and it was funny. It's like, don't you know who this guy is? And then the one cop's like, oh, it's not. It's Falcon, the Avenger. It's like, oh man, you're sorry. I didn't notice you on the outfit and stuff. And it's like, whatever, dude. And then, of course, before it's even done, another car rolls up, and it's like, okay. So, they're touching on it. They're touching on that stuff. So they go through that, and then after that whole situation, Bucky actually ends up getting arrested because he didn't go to his court mandated appointment. So that's where we actually get the scene from the trailer where it seemed like it was going to be funny. And then it ended up super serious because they actually have the breakthrough moment. And he's like, I'm mad that you gave up the shield because if my best friend, who is now dead, like Captain America, Steve Rogers, was wrong about you, then he was wrong about me too. And I'm just the Winter Soldier. I'm just the Nazi super soldier monster. And it's like, I could see how that would F you up. I could see how, I mean, obviously we see he's having the dream still, so that obviously messes with him. But then it's like, that makes so much more sense now as to why he doesn't talk to Sam, because it's like, it was hard for him to confront that. Like, I can't be friends with you when I feel like, you know, like our mutual friend was wrong about you, because then he's wrong about me and I'm just screwed forever now. So I was like, oh, that was a good moment. And then they kind of played it up, and it was just like, fine, we'll just do this last mission and go our separate ways forever. And like, the therapist didn't say anything like they had a breakthrough or like you should focus on that. It was just like he had that serious moment, and then it was just, that was it. And I was like, that's weird, man. That's super weird. And then that was pretty much it. They hated on the U.S. agent and stuff, and he's like, you know, stay the hell out of my way. And I'm like, okay. Like, he's not going to do anything. And then it's like, okay, we got to go talk to Zemo. And then that was the end of the episode. I really enjoyed it. They also showed some stuff with the villains. She apparently stole something from someone else, and the dude was like, you stole that, I'm going to kill you. And I was like, Also, that one dude who let them escape on the plane, I was like, I feel like he didn't have to charge in and get himself killed. Like, he seemed to slow them down just enough. He probably could have ran and made it, but it is what it is. I'm curious about the villains. I'm curious what Zemo's going to do. I remembered that he hates super soldiers, so he probably won't actually be teaming up with them like I was thinking originally. Because I was like, hold on. He hated the super soldier thing, so he might actually be more of a, like, middle-of-the-road villain where he's, you know, enemy of my enemy type thing. And clearly he escapes. That's in the trailer. Somewhere he has his actual mask. So I'm excited to see how this plays out, because I'm like, oh yeah, he hates super soldiers. He wouldn't help the Flag Smashers. But he also might, considering how they want to technically help the world. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I enjoyed the episode. Can't wait for 3. Would love to know your thoughts on this. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. What do you think of the U.S. agent? New Captain America? Where things going to go with Zemo as well. Would love to know your thoughts on that. And the villains in general for this series. Like, it's just interesting. I'm very curious. So I'd love to know your thoughts on that. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.